Let's go. Torah hard. Megillah Esther. Page Tzadik Hey. Second column. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 lines from the end of the last paragraph on Tzadik K. Okay, the last thing the Alter Rebbe was explaining is that the 7 Midas is basically Avram, Yitzchok, and Yaakov. Avram is the level of Ava and Yitzchok Yira, and Yaakov is the level of Tiferes, which is Rachmanis. And he said, okay, let's start again from maybe 18 lines to the end. It said the concept of Kabbalah Sil, bringing Elokus down here, even though after the Kabbalah Sil it still says the Yahavta, but nevertheless Parsha Shniya says Hisham Lochem that it's possible. In other words, even after Kabbalah Sil, even after the Yahavta, it's still possible to turn away from Hashem. First, you get down the level of love that you want to cling to Hashem. When you want to cling to Hashem, and you start meditating into the greatness of Hashem. That down here is the same level of Elokus, is the way it is up there. In other words, the only difference between down here and up there is the amount of how much Elokus is felt. But the reality is, that's a saponim, and Hashem's all over the place. There's no difference down here and up there. And therefore, through his baininess, the person realizes the way Hashem is down here. Then you get Yira, meaning Ava creates Yira. That's what the Alter Rebbe is explaining. You have Ava, okay, the meditation when it causes the love of Hashem. That causes, like he says, that's what the pasuk says, Avram Heilid es Yitzchak. There's a famous question all the Mefarshim ask. It says, Elu told us Yitzchak ben Avraham, Avram Heilid es Yitzchak. So the question is redundant. If Yitzchak is the son of Avram, then Avram is the father of Yitzchak. So Rashi brings down, because people were saying that Avram was not the father of Yitzchak, because when he was married to Sarah, he couldn't have kids. All of a sudden, Sarah was taken to Avimelech's house. She became pregnant, Kaviyachal. So the pasuk says, Avram Heilid es Yitzchak, meaning Hashem, this is what Rashi says, Hashem made Yitzchak look exactly like Avraham, so nobody could say that he was somebody else's kid. But here the Alter Rebbe is explaining, Avram Heilid es Yitzchak means Ava gives birth to Yira. Avram, which is Ava, gives birth to Yitzchak. Maamar Kasulam Deinu, Halay Kfar Nemer Yitzchak ben Avram. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining going to Chassidus. What does it mean? That the attribute of Yitzchak, that Yitzchak comes, Yira comes from Ava, meaning she'ein midas Yitzchak Yira mida b'fnei atzmei, u'midas Avram b'fnei atzmo. Okay, that what? That midas Yitzchak is Yira mitzara and Avram elo kol amida shebegdusha ein achtus echad ve'im b'chir pirat chas v'sholem. This is what the pasuk is teaching us. Normally, Ava and Yira are opposites. Fire and water are opposites. Here the pasuk is teaching us a very unique thing, that Ava and Yira are the same thing. Because in Kedusha, unlike Klippa, that there's, Yitzchak and I mean, Av of Klippa, Yir of Klippa, even though in Klippa there is no unity, in Kedusha there is unity. It's all one. What's the marshal of this? You have in the person's body different limbs which are contradictory usages. It functions differently. The brain is cold, the heart is warm, and yet they function together. How can they function together? They're opposites. One's cold and one's warm. The answer is because it's all for one purpose. There's all bittul in it. And like we said, that I've explained many times, a healthy person doesn't feel himself existing because he's bottled. When you start feeling yourself, you start feeling your stomach, you start feeling your head, that's when you're sick. So in Kedusha, because Av is bittul, Yira is bittul, everything is bittul, so there it's one function. They're all functioning towards one goal. You have that in music, you have that in sports. Every player has a different position, a different role in the sports. But they function all together, then they have a team. In Klippa, though, that doesn't exist like that. The same thing in the concept of karbanis. It says in the Gemara that in days of Shlomo Melech, a fire came down from heaven. Gechelos yatzam min hashemayim b'mei Shlomo. That's what the Gemara says. A coal, a hot, fiery coal came down from heaven in the days of Shlomo Melech in the base of Mikdash. Levutza kari, crouched like a lion that consumed the karbanis. In addition, they have to bring their own fire. But so he says, what does that mean? There's Ariel Yamin, the Asha Bechinas Ugoras, that function in consumption fire. Here you have Aryeh, who's crouched like a lion, and the Merkavah, the throne of Hashem, is on the right side, which is Ava, and yet it consumed Kabbanis with fire because it's Gvura. How could it be Aryeh on the right and yet burn things? Because it was all in Kedusha. The same thing, Koyanim at the level of Chesed. Leviim, says in Kabbalah, at the level of Gvura. That's why, for the first time, one time historically, the Leviim in the Mishkan, in the Chumash, it says the Leviim right before the Kairach story. The Leviim had to shave with a razor the hair from head to toe. One time deal.
Even a beard.
The beard, everything.
They said when Mrs. Korach didn't like that.
So Mrs. Korach didn't like it.
When Mashiach comes, the Leviim have to do it again like we have.
The problem is, the Leviim become Koyanim. And you peasants, Yisraelim, become Leviim. You guys are going to have to do it. Us Leviim are going to become Koyanim.
Rabbi, if the Kohen is a chesed,
What?
The Kohen is a chesed, but don't we say that they're also gevura?
No.
When it comes to giving a get, they got to go slow, they have a temper.
They have a temper. That's nature, but that's not their level. Their nature is Gvura, their level is Chesed. Anyway, so it says, here is the level of Gvura. Cyrus is the level of Gvura. So, what did they have to do? They had to shave all the hair from the body because hair was Gvura, and Leviim are Gvura. It's too much Gvura, so they had to get rid of the Gvura, so to speak. It's called Mata V'lei Mata.
Oh, remember, okay? It's safe.
Vayhi Od. The Bechinas Das. That not that it says the person Mimino Eish Das Lamei. What is Das Kava Mamutza? That's the middle one. B'chinas Torah Shenikra Emes. Al Shem, because Emes is Aleph B'Rosh Ha'isius Member Emse V'Tav B'Seifam, which is the level of Ameraviach Min HaKotzel HaKotzel, which is Midas Yaakov, which is Titin Emes Yaakov. He says like this. Avram is the level of Chesed. Yitzchak is the level of Gvura. And then you have the level of Torah, which is Emes, Aleph Mem Sof, which is beginning and middle, meaning it takes the beginning and the end, Chesed and Gvura, and puts it in the middle. So that's the level of Torah. So these are the three kavim in Aveda that a person has to do. Okay? So he says now, 3 lines in the new paragraph, 3 lines in the end of the page. Vine kol avav midasa now is the level of vav Shem Hashem Avaya Baruch Hu. And he says, b'chinas hahei shebashem, that's the vav. What is the vav? The 6 midas, which basically is chesed gvura teferes.
Torah is level of Yaakov?
Huh?
Torah is level of Yaakov?
Yeah. In the 3 pillars, Torah, Aveda, Gemilas Chsadim. Gemilas Chsadim is Avram. Yes? Aveda is Yitzchak. So what's Yaakov? Torah. Yaakov each tam Yosef Eyolim. Yaakov learned Torah. And that's why he played with the colored sticks, because it's all Tiferes, all that. But that's the level of Torah. Avram is Gemilas Chsadim, Yitzchak is Gvura, and this is Torah. Vinay, call above midas. Okay, but the level hey of Hashem's name is the level tmunus v'tzuras. The hey is gimel kavim. Okay, so how's the hey? You have the top side connected, right? The top and the right is connected, and then you have the hey, which is disconnected. The third leg of the hey is disconnected from the top, right? Not like the ches. So the 2 kavim machabo mechubarim, which is machshava dibur, and kava gimel b'chinas ma'isa. It says in Kabbalah and Chassidus, what? Everything's good, thank you. It says in Kabbalah and Chassidus that the hay and the ches, remember the basi lagani we learned is dalid becomes a hay, reish becomes a kuv. So it says the letter Hey of Hashem's name, so you have Yud Kei Vav Kei. So Yud is Chochmah, Hey is Bina. Vav is the 6 meters that he says Avram Yitzchak and Yaakov. Then you have the second Hey, that's thought, speech, and action. The top line is thought. The vertical line down is Dibur. And then you have the third one. That's the level of Maisa. In Kedusha, there has to be a difference between thought and speech to action. Berasiv Yitzartiv Af Asisiv. There has to be between Berasiv Yitzartiv, which is Machshava and Dibur, to action has to be. The problem with Ches is there's no separation between thought, speech, and action. That's why Ches is no good. What? Korach. Okay. So he says, what it means is like this. What's the normal avodah? Take the vav, the yud has to come into the hay. The vav has to come into the hay. Now, the vav represents, we said before, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Chesed, Gvura, Teferes. Torah, Aveda, Gemilas Chsadim. But that level of love and fear is not enough to stay in love and fear. I love you very much, but that's where it stops. It's worthless. If I love you very much, it has to come down into thought, speech, and action. I have to think about you, talk about you, action. So what's the level of, from the Vav, it has to come down to the Hey, meaning to Machshava Dibur and Maisa. What?
Is there a higher level of thought, speech, and action in Bina also because it's Hey?
Yeah, Bina is a higher, how you understand basically through thought. How do you reveal it? You reveal Bina through thought.
But how about the speech and action? Because that's also head.
That's more in the source of it. In the source of it, you have Machshava Dibur Ma'aseh. But then that's the source of the second hay. When it comes into practical thought, speech, and action. But you haven't been the source of thought, speech, and action.
And besides Hashem,
There's nothing else.
Hashem, Torah, and Israel, does anything else exist spiritually?
No.
Nothing else exists.
From whose perspective?
From
From our perspective, everything exists.
No, from his perspective, it doesn't.
Right. The only thing that exists from Hashem's perspective is Hashem, Torah, and Jews, because it's all the same thing.
And nothing else exists.
Ein Eid Milvadei, nothing else exists but Hashem. The essence of Hashem is Torah and Neshama. So that's why they're the only things that exist.
Torah is emet. When somebody who's not a Jewish neshama says emet.
But second, if you think about it also, the only reason why it's a true existence because they're the only things that are eternal.
When a boy says emet,
A guy?
yes,
What do you mean, Emma?
somebody says the truth. A boy says the truth. That truth doesn't exist.
Yeah, goyim say truth. Jews don't usually.
Isn't that the truth?
The truth is nothing but the truth.
No, so what do you want to know?
You want to know.
What are you asking?
If a boy says the truth,
No,
does that truth exist?
truth exists because truth is Hashem.
Even if a boy says it.
It's true.
Emes maskim la'atzmei mikol tzad. Chassidus always brings down the Ralbag, which is a commentary on Tanakh, especially on Nach, that Emes agrees to itself in every angle, because if it doesn't, it's not Emes. Emes is continuous. You can't have, like Dr. Rabbi uses the expression Tanya, vad argia loshen sheker. A temporary permanency is lie, is false.
Like the river.
Yeah. Anyway, so the ultimate goal is to bring the Vav, which is Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Torah, Ved, Mitzvah, of Avi, Yid, and Rachmanis, down into thought, speech, and action. But he says now, V'ine yesh ha'hei b'milui hei acheres. Okay, now, it says like this. Hey represents thought, speech, and action. Every letter in the Aleph base has what's called the milui. Like you have the letter Aleph, but Aleph is spelled Aleph Lamed Pei. Beis is spelled Beis Yud Saf. Gimel Yud Mem Lamed. Hey could be spelled one of three ways. Here the Alter Rebbe is saying, hey, the milui of hey is hey. Sometimes it's hey Yud, sometimes it's hey Aleph, but here the Alter Rebbe is speaking, the milui of hey is another hey. Now what does it mean? When you have an Aleph, what you see is the letter Aleph. The Lamed Pei is concealed. That you don't see, you only see the letter Aleph, you don't see the Lamed Pei. Right? Even that's the way you write out the Aleph. So in Hey, you have hidden thought, speech, and action, and you have revealed thought, speech, and action. Because the milui of Hey is another Hey, which is again thought, speech, and action, but in a concealed way versus a revealed way. And then he says, and then there's a Hey b'milui Aleph, which is Hel Ma'id, which is the level of Aleph Pella.
What is concealed thought?
One second. Then the Alter Rebbe says like this. I told you there's 3 ways of writing hey. Hey Aleph, hey Yud. Alter Rebbe said normally it's hey, which represents the hidden thought, speech, and action. Then you have the milu hey Aleph. Alter Rebbe says Aleph, again, that's even a greater concealment than the hey is. Why? Aleph Lamed Pei is the same letters as the word Pella, wondrous, Niflois. There's Nes, which is miracle, and then there's Pella. Right? You say in davening, Niflois adin Cheker, by in Ma'ariv Shachris, you say Niflois about Nisim and Niflois. Nisim are miracles that make sense a little bit. Pella means even in the realm of miracles it doesn't make sense. It's wondrous. Miracles and wonders, even in English you say miracles and wonders. Wondrous is more shocking than miracles. So the milui of Hey Aleph is even a greater concealment of the milui than Hey, because Aleph is more wondrous than Hey of the milui.
Isn't thought already concealed?
Huh?
The thought is already concealed, so what is the concealed level of thought?
No. It's not true. You have different levels of thought. A person can not stop thinking. Correct?
Yes.
Now, is that tangible thinking?
No, it's not tangible.
It's not tangible thinking. Then you have tangible thinking. And then you have even that different levels. For instance, you think something, you see something, so you think it, right? That thought has nothing to do with speech. Then, when you want to make a speech, okay, you have to make a speech. So you think beforehand, what words am I going to say in the speech? That already is machshava, closer to dibur. Then you have a machshava, which is above that. It's not tangible. You're not thinking in words yet. You know what I mean? Then you have a level of machshava that's not even tangible yet, even in the world of thought. We know by ourselves. You cannot stop thinking, but that doesn't mean it's tangible thinking.
Even in sleep,
Yeah, even in sleep you think. Some people talk. Some people walk. That's the way it comes down into lower levels. Achine shoyrish b'chinas avod hey shebeshem Havaya Baruch Hu nimshach momayla meb'chinas Yudke shebeshem. Remember the Alter Rebbe started the Maamar. Ki yod al case Yudke. Okay? And he said, what the Medrash says, the name of Hashem is not complete until Amalek is destroyed. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining what Vav and Hey is. Vav is Ava Yira Chesed V'Vor Tiferes. The Hey is Machshava Dibur Maisa. And what's the source of Vav K? Yud K. So he said, before he quoted the Chazal, that by Amalek it only says Ki Yod al case Yud K. And case, instead of Kisei, is Chav Samach. It's missing the Aleph. So he said, what does Chazal say? The name of Hashem cannot be complete until Amalek is destroyed. So what's missing from Yud K? The Vav K. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining what is Vav K. Chesed V'Vor Tiferes, Ava Yira Rachmanis, and the Hey is the way it comes into thought, speech, and action. But what's the source of that? Yud K. So, with Amalek's existence, that level of Vav K cannot exist, because Amalek blocks Ava Yira Rachmanis and Machshava Dibur Ma'asav Kedusha. That's what Amalek does. It throws a coldness that you shouldn't have thought, speech, and action, or love, fear, and Rachmanis of Kedusha. So therefore, the Vavke is not complete. But the Vavke sort of the Vavke sort is Yudke. So therefore, that level, as we'll soon see, therefore you need a Malik, get rid of a Malik to bring the Yudke into the Vavke.
I mean, is there something that says, or is this like we